One of the questions often asked concerning Russia's invasion of Ukraine is, will Putin strike somewhere else as well? There are several nations or regions with which Russia, and before that the Soviet Union, had traditional interests, and the most often spoken of are the Baltic states, the collective terms for Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Due to the fact that the Baltic states are members of NATO, any invasion there would precipitate an all-out conflict between Russia and NATO, effectively a world war. But there is somewhere that Putin could get away with annexing, largely because, like Ukraine, it's not a member of NATO or the European Union, and like Ukraine's Donbass region, a part of it is very much already in the Russian camp. The Russian High Command rather gave the game away earlier in the Ukraine invasion by showing on television a map that clearly delineates President Putin's next target for invasion. An arrow showing a Russian advance northwest out of the Odessa region of Ukraine towards the country very few people have heard of, let alone could find on a map: Moldova. Moldova is Europe's poorest country, and it's sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. Unlike the latter, tiny Moldova isn't a NATO or EU member. It's a former Soviet republic that became independent in 1991 along with Ukraine. It had a complex relationship with its neighbors, just like Ukraine and many other Soviet republics bordering Eastern Europe. Until 1812, almost all of it belonged to the Principality of Moldavia until it was ceded to the Russian Empire by Ottoman Turkey. Most of Moldavia was united with an area called Bessarabia to form modern Romania, and this border region remained diplomatically complex until after World War I. Modern Moldova was created by the Soviet Union in 1924, bordering the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, a territory with a Moldovan majority population. In effect, the new territory was tiny bits of Romania and bits of Ukraine merged into a small republic, its unifying characteristic being its distinctive language and the culture of Moldovan people. In 1940, Germany interfered in the Moldovan question due to the redrawing of borders in Eastern Europe occasioned by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. This agreement was supposed to prevent a war between Germany and the Soviet Union, with a secret side agreement to carve up Poland between them. It was signed in Moscow in August 1939, to the astonishment of Hitler's enemies and his supporters alike, who couldn't understand why Hitler, rabidly anti-communist, would enter into such an agreement with Stalin. But it suited Hitler's purposes regarding his forthcoming invasion of Poland. As part of the pact, Romania was compelled to give Russia Bessarabia and northern Bukovina, and this territory merged with the existing Moldovan territory to form the Moldavian Soviet Socialist Republic. In 1991, as the Soviet Union broke up, Moldavia declared itself independent, taking a new name, Moldova. The problem is a strip of territory in the east of the country, bordering Ukraine, called Transnistria. Transnistria, unlike the rest of Moldova, has a very large Russian population, and in the creation of an independent Moldova, the region declared that it wanted to remain with Russia. A war broke out between Transnistrian forces and the Moldovan army, which concluded with a ceasefire in July 1992. The area has become effectively a demilitarized zone, and Transnistria declared itself independent. Though unrecognized by any nation in the world, including Russia, Transnistria has its own constitution, flag, currency, national anthem, president, parliamentary government, military and police. And it is not controlled by Moldova, to which it remains legally part of. In many respects, it's the same situation that exists in eastern Ukraine, where the two republics of Luhansk and Donetsk have declared independence from Ukraine, and whose large Russian populations are allied to Russia. Russian peacekeeping troops are still stationed in Transnistria, and since 2016 it's been illegal to criticize the Russian presence, with up to 7 years in jail if found guilty. Could it be that Putin has enacted a policy of absorbing Russian-majority enclaves back into the motherland? Certainly, his demands regarding Ukraine have been quite clear. He has offered to withdraw his forces from the nation, among several other conditions, if the Ukrainian government agrees that 3 Russian-majority regions, the Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk, are removed from Ukraine, the latter 2 becoming independent republics under Russian protection. So what of Moldova? Well, Putin occupying Transnistria and perhaps also invading Moldova in order to force its government to cede the territory permanently to Russian control is possible. It is very probable, as it would make logical sense for him to do so, as he successfully took the Donbass. And neither Ukraine nor Moldova are NATO members, which means Russia can avoid a war with the West. So could Moldova resist a Russian invasion? Probably not, and certainly not for long without substantial outside military assistance. In order to forestall Russian action, Moldova quickly applied for European Union membership on the 3rd of March 2022. In the meantime, the Moldovan army consists of some 6,000 troops. The country has no tanks, relying on BMD infantry fighting vehicles of Soviet vintage and an assortment of armoured personnel carriers and artillery. The Air Force has no modern fighter aircraft. The force of 29 MiG-29 jets it inherited from the USSR all being sold or scrapped, 21 going to the United States. Within Moldova, there are currently 1,500 Russian troops, the operational group of Russian forces in Transnistria, and NATO has demanded these forces withdraw from the country, a request that Russia so far has ignored. Russia can count on the support of around 10,000 heavily armed local militiamen loyal to Transnistria and not to Moldova. The only good news for Moldova is that Russian forces in Ukraine have met much fiercer resistance than expected and appear to be bogged down in some places. Another theory that may save Moldova from Putin's attentions is the idea that the map displayed on television by the Russian generals is a fake, a propaganda piece. However, if his invasion of Ukraine eventually succeeds, by military force or negotiations, it's clear that Luhansk and Donetsk and Crimea will be Russian thereafter, allowing Putin complete control of the Black Sea coast. And adding Transnistria to that swathe of territory makes complete sense from the Russian perspective. Moldova is no friend of Russia's, leaning towards the West for economic help and military assistance. And citing Putin's stated reasons for invading the Donbass region and then Ukraine as preventing the advance of NATO and the EU up to Russia's borders, annexing Transnistria and effecting regime change in Moldova would be moves Putin sees as preventative and sensible for Russia's national security. For the time being, NATO has shown little interest in beefing up Moldova's defences or helping to train its army. There have been some US training teams in Moldova, and in 2021, $4 million worth of military aid was delivered. But since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the US has promised more, and quickly. Now it may be too late. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share. Please also visit my video channel, Mark Felton Productions. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.